In this video, we will be going over a GCSE question in Surds and Indices. This is aimed at a grade 9 standard, and for these kinds of questions, it will always be better to do harder questions and familiarize yourself with those, so that in the exam, if you get easier questions or questions of a similar difficulty, it will be 3 marks for you. So let's approach our question. And so we have 9y to the power of minus 2 over 5, the whole to the power of 3 over 2, divided by 3y to the power of minus 1 over 5, the whole to the power of 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to split these into 2 different sections. So our first indices we're going to keep as 1, we'll label as 1. And our second indices we will label as 2. So let's start by simplifying part 1. So we can split the 2 terms out and we get 9 times y to the power of minus 2 over 5, the whole to the power of 3 over 2. Now what we can do is we can raise the values in our brackets to the power of our indices. So you have 9 to the power of 3 over 2 multiplied by y to the power of minus 2 over 5, the whole to the power of 3 over 2. So now I'm going to use the rule a to the power of b, the whole to the power of c, is equal to a to the power of b times c. And so we're going to use that with our indices for y. So we have 9 to the power of 3 over 2 multiplied by y to the power of minus 2 over 5 multiplied by 3 over 2. What we can do is we can cancel out our 2 in the denominator and in our numerator, and we can multiply our remaining values together. So we get 9 to the power of 3 over 2 multiplied by y to the power of minus 3 over 5. Now we can simplify our value for 9 further down. So we have 9 to the power of 3 over 2, and this can be split as 3 times a half. Now we can isolate this, and we can write it as 9 to the power of a half, the whole cubed. And any number raised to the power of a half means you square root that number. So what we can have is we can have the square root of 9 to the power of 3, and this is equal to 3 to the power of 3. And now we can just bring our value for y and add it to the end. So we get 3 to the power of 3 multiplied by y to the power of 3 over 5. Now we're going to approach part 2. So we have our finalized form of part 1. We can approach part 2 now. And so once again, we're going to start off by separating our 2 values. So we get 3 times y to the power of minus 1 over 5, the whole squared. We will now raise our values to the indices. And so we get 3 squared multiplied by y to the minus 1 over 5, the whole thing squared. And so using the rule that we've used before, we get 3 squared multiplied by y to the power of minus 1 over 5, and the indices is multiplied by 2. Simplify all together, you get 3 squared multiplied by y to the power of minus 2 over 5. Now we have our simplified versions of both parts of our equation. Now what we can do is we can now bring them back together and start the final division. So we're going to have 1 divided by 2 as given in the question as well. So we're going to write this out as 3 to the power of 3 multiplied by y to the power of minus 3 over 5. I'm going to keep that in brackets. And then that's divided by now part 2, which is 3 squared times y to the power of minus 2 over 5. Now, to make this easier to understand, we're going to put it in the form of a fraction. So we'll have the same thing written out, but in the form of a fraction. So 3 cubed times y to the minus 3 over 5, the whole thing over 3 squared times y to the minus 2 over 5. Now, we can start cancelling stuff out. So we have 3 cubed over 3 squared. Now both of these are separated from the value of y by multiplication. This allows us to cancel these values out. If it was addition or subtraction, we would not have been able to do this. So 3 cubed divided by 3 squared leaves us with 3. That's in our numerator. And we can use the same, we can use a different rule now for our values for y. So we have 3 times so the rule that we can have is a to the power of b times by a to the power of c is equal to a to the power of b plus c. Now with division, this obviously means the opposite. So a to the power of b divided by a to the power of c gives us a to the power of b minus c. That's for division. So let's write out our values of y. So we get y to the power of minus 3 over 5 divide and then minus in our indices now minus 2 over 5 because we now subtract the indices of our y value in the denominator from the y indices of the y value in the numerator. Now this leaves us with 3 times y to the power of minus 3 over 5 plus 2 over 5. And this leaves us with that equal to 3 times y to the power of minus 1 over 5. And this is the simplified form of our equation that we've given at the beginning. So for questions like this, you always want to go methodically, finding a way of simplifying every value that you have and getting it into surd forms that are easy to manipulate and using the surd rules you have learnt to simplify it down. As always, thank you for watching and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any new content.